Hello and welcome to another episode of Tales of Middle-earth, the series in which we explore stories and locations unrelated to our journey on Citadel Guard Adventures. This is Beriathan of the Citadel Guard of Gondor, and today is September 22nd, and you know what that means. Today is Bilbo's and Frodo's birthday, and this is a special date that I have always enjoyed to celebrate one way or another. I sometimes have second breakfast, I sometimes watch a scene from the movie or listen to some songs, but I always try to do something special for this date. And on this year, I have decided to do something that I have always wanted to do in game, and that is, well, let me show you. I just had the interface off for dramatic purposes, let's say, but let me show you what's the plan for today. We are here in the Shire in Bag End. I think this is the very first time Beriathan has been inside Bag End, and that is exciting in and on itself. But what we're gonna do, we're gonna travel from Bag End all the way to the Lonely Mountain. We are going to mirror or follow in on Bilbo's footsteps, if you will. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. There are a few videos from other creators that already do something very similar to this, but here is when the special thing I always wanted to do comes into play. You can see here in my bags, I have collected every single piece of pipeweed that you can get in the game. I have double checked with the wiki, I have double checked with the item treasury plugin. I am fairly certain I have them all. And the idea is that as we travel along Bilbo's path, we are gonna stop at specific locations and have a path of each one of these pipeweeds to commemorate Bilbo. And in doing so, I think also commemorate Professor Tolkien, which of course was also a big fan of the pipe. So that's what we are going to do today. I don't know how long is it going to take me. I don't know if I'm gonna speed up some of the traveling because, well, it's a lot of terrain to cover. But I am nonetheless really excited to get started with today's episode and today's celebration of Bilbo's and Frodo's birthdays. So let us start by going outside. Well, but before going outside, I think being this the first time we are in Bag End, a tour of the Hobbit Hall is in order. Here we have the dining table where Bilbo and Gandalf and all the dwarves sat down to discuss the quest for Erebor. And here we have the chimney, but I don't think this is the chimney and the study where they moved later that night to discuss things. I think it's more likely that this is the one. You will remember that they start talking about the dragon, about the mountain, and at some point Bilbo got so scared that he let out a shout, and I think he was sitting very close to the fire. It's been a while since I read The Hobbit. I wasn't able to reread The Hobbit in preparation for today's video, so we will be going on by memory, let's say. Anyway, here we also have the studio where Bilbo most likely spent most of his time writing his book. Fittingly, we have a map of Eriador in here, the old version of Eriador at that. Look at that. In case you came here fairly recently, this is what the game map used to look like many years ago. This is so nostalgic. Anyway, and finally, we have here the door. We'll leave Bag End. It's a wonderful day in Middle-earth, wonderful day in the Shire. As you can see here, it's just dawn. So the day is just starting, and I'm also very curious to see how long does it take us to arrive where we need to go. Now, this is the first location, of course. This is where Bilbo started his own journey, so it's also fitting that we are gonna have our first puff of pipeweed on this location as well. But something else that I'm doing with this pipeweed to make it extra special is that we are telling the story through the pipeweed. We are each kind of pipeweed creates its own form of smoke. The smoke takes different shapes and sizes. And with all that, we can actually tell the story of the book, I think, quite loyal to the source material. We'll see about that. You will let me know what you think about it. But I am very happy about how this turned out. There was a lot of planning involved, and hopefully it will play out. So here, on the door to Bag End, Garliff is also really excited to start our journey. We are gonna take our first puff of the pipe, and we're gonna start with a long bottom leaf pipeweed. As you can see here, this one has been crafted by myself. This is one of the advantages of being a farmer, and in fact, I initially got this idea when I initially chose my vocation in the early episodes of Volume 1. You might remember I was choosing between a tinkerer and a historian, but in the end I chose historian. Historian comes with a farmer, and when I realized I could craft all my pipeweed is when this idea started forming inside my head. So the first one that we are gonna take today is this long bottom leaf pipeweed. We'll see what kind of shape this one takes. And is just a regular smoke ring. So you will remember when Bilbo was sitting in front of his door that fateful day when Gandalf came, he was very proud of the rings of smoke that he was creating. And Gandalf even had something to comment on that regard. And later on that night, when they were smoking inside Bilbo's home, and Gandalf was creating his own rings of smoke, Bilbo also remembered how proud he was of the ones he created earlier that day. So now we are doing the same thing. We are smoking and letting out some rings in commemoration of Bilbo. Bilbo, of course, is no longer here. We have LOTRO and Lovelia, which is less than an ideal company, but at least we can get ready for our journey. So you will remember Bilbo woke up late. Gandalf didn't let him say anything and just sent him on his way without a handkerchief and without his pipe and his tobacco. Well, on the Hobbit it says tobacco, but later on when Tolkien started writing Lord of the Rings, he started referring to tobacco as pipeweed. It was a linguistic choice to not to use the word tobacco, which, as I understand, comes from Latin, as Tolkien intended to only use words that were used during the Middle Ages in England, something along those lines. I don't remember quite well. What I do remember is Bilbo raced as fast as he could to the Green Dragon. This is the Ibe Bush. So we are still a few steps away from the Green Dragon. Bilbo rushed all the way to the Green Dragon. At least I think it was the Green Dragon. I always get confused by the fact there are two inns, two pubs so close to each other here in the Shire, in Hobbiton and Bywater. But I think it was the Green Dragon because I remember Bilbo had to run to Bywater to meet Thorin and company, so that makes it the Green Dragon. We've been on the Green Dragon a couple times before, mostly doing festivals. Beriathan hasn't come to the Shire as part of the main storyline at all, so we have only been here for festivals. And here we have the Green Dragon. This is where Bilbo met Thorin and company right on time. Barely on time, I would say. And later on, Gandalf arrived carrying Bilbo's own pipeweed and, well, the pipe and a handkerchief. I think Gandalf brought a lot of things for Bilbo, for which he was very grateful. And we are gonna stop at this location and smoke a summer green pipeweed. This summer green pipeweed you can only get on the farmer's fair. You need to barter tokens for it, and you can barter for the pouch, or you can barter for the seeds, or for the recipe. But if you barter for the recipe, you still need the seeds. So I think it's more efficient just to barter for the pouch. But of course, if you craft it, you will get a bigger yield, so you will have more of them. I didn't plan ahead enough. I wanted to keep all the pipeweed in my inventory, at least one copy of each version, but all the pipeweeds that you get from the farmer's fair, I only got one of each. So that means I will run out of summer green pipeweed, and I will need to replenish that one on next year's festival. So I hope I don't forget next year. But now we are gonna smoke this pouch of summer green pipeweed, and let's see what we get now. What will be the figure that we're getting here. So let me turn off the UI. This one is the form of a pipe, of course. Very fitting, considering this is where Gandalf, as I said before, brought Bilbo his own pipe. So we are, in a way, remembering that moment. Gratitude towards Gandalf, of course. Bilbo was able to use his pipe during a portion of the journey, but of course he ran out of tobacco at some point and he couldn't smoke anymore. But he always yearned for his Hobbit hole and his pipe and his pot, well, his meals and everything. But today we are celebrating Bilbo through the pipeweed. So now that we have done that at the Green Dragon, next thing that Bilbo and Thorin and company did with Gandalf was, of course, set for Erebor through the East Road. They first passed through the Shire, and then through Brilland, and through the Lonelands. And something that has always amazed me about this is the fact that all that in The Hobbit happened in just one paragraph, and on the next paragraph they had already crossed the last bridge and were in the Trollshaws. But on Fellowship of the Ring, it took Frodo 11 chapters to do that. It took Frodo an entire book. It took Frodo almost as long as it took Bilbo to just get to the Trollshaws. Talking just about word count and page count, Frodo took about a month between Bag End and Rivendell, and we can expect that Bilbo took about the same time when he set on his own journey, but what a drastic difference, in my opinion. So on The Hobbit is just a couple lines. On Fellowship of the Ring, by the time you get to Rivendell, you are so exhausted by the entire thing. Especially if you've read The Hobbit before. I remember when I was reading Fellowship for the very first time, and Frodo said, well, I'm going to Rivendell, I'm going to meet Elrond. And I said, well, yeah, I remember that. That's from the previous book. Okay, so they're going to Rivendell. And then I spent the entirety of book 1 just wondering, when is Frodo going to arrive at Rivendell? My God, how long is it gonna take? and that feeling of amazement has never left me. Every time I read The Hobbit and I read Fellowship of the Ring, I'm always amazed by that fact. And of course, now we have the map to show us that. So, well, you get the sense of scale, and there's no room for confusion in here. But yeah, food for thought, right? Now, I don't know if I wanna ride my horse or if I wanna actually walk all the way through. There are a couple places in which we cannot use a horse. So I'm thinking, for the sake of time, because this is a very long journey, I'm gonna do something that I really don't do much of, and that is using a run speed boost. Let me just double check. I'm not sure if I have one that is bound to character. Doesn't seem to be. So I'm just gonna grab one of these that I never use because I don't have need for them, really. Oh, I had one in my bag. I knew it. I feel so stupid now. Can you please stack? Why are you not stacking? Okay, well, they are both in the shared storage now. Anyway, I'm not sure if a forced march overrides this buff. They should stack. As far as I know, they stack. Because otherwise, what would be the point of having these burst of swiftness, especially if you purchase them through your destiny points? Well, these ones last for shorter amount of time and have a lesser potency, but anyway, all these buffs should stack. Let's hope they stack. Anyway, as I said, Bilbo and Thorin, the dwarves, and Gandalf set out on the road. I think there is one line talking about Brayland, talking about when Bilbo and Thorin and company were arrived to the country of folk of strange manners, or something along those lines. Well, this is a long road. I might be able to double check this on my book. It's in Spanish, so I will need to translate that myself. I might make a couple mistakes in there, but let me just double check that. Yeah, where people talked in a strange manner and sang songs that Bilbo didn't heard before, had never heard before. And that is everything it says about Brayland. That's crazy. It's gonna take us at least 20 minutes to cross Brayland on foot. Maybe even more. And yeah, this journey is gonna take a long while. At least a couple hours. I knew what I was getting myself into. But oh my god, this is gonna take a while. It's just hitting me with all its implications. This is gonna be a really long video. I hope you don't mind. I hope you enjoyed the journey as much as I am. But well, Bilbo and Frodo deserve a proper birthday celebration. And for the longest time too, I liked Bilbo more than Frodo. Frodo, even in the books, when he is a lot wiser and a lot more, let's say, confident and commanding than in the movies, but even in the books, at some point Frodo just comes out as a little bit whiny. And that's something that I liked Bilbo. That I liked about Bilbo. He never let the odds overcome his spirit. Of course, they were on two entirely different quests. Frodo himself says that. Bilbo went for a treasure and I go out to lose a treasure, and Bilbo had hope, whereas I have none. So I understand why Frodo acted the way he did. And over the years, I have come to appreciate more Frodo's character, but for the longest time, Bilbo was my favorite Hobbit. I'm not so sure anymore, but there's that. The next stop that we have here on the road is the Prancing Pony. Once again, the book doesn't mention the Prancing Pony at all, but it's safe to assume, in my opinion, that Bilbo and Gandalf and everyone else spent at least one night in the pony before leaving Brayland. And you also need to remember, on the appendices and on the unfinished tales, we get to learn how Gandalf met Thorin in the Prancing Pony and how they started the entire quest for Erebor. Peter Jackson also included something of that story in the prologue of The Desolation of Smaug, and I like that scene a lot. Maybe we can talk about the Hobbit movies while we go along this journey, but bottom line, The Desolation of Smaug is my least favorite of those movies. It starts great with that prologue. It starts great with Green Baron, but they totally butcher Mirkwood and the spiders and the elves. The river chase is a little bit of fun, but after that the movie just stops working at all. But as I was saying, we are here in the Prancing Pony. Our next stop is this Stonecrop Leaf Pipeweed. This is another one that you can only get on the Farmer's Fair / Summer Festival. So I only have one of this. And let's hope this one is enough. So a boar running, as you can see. And as far as I remember, there are no mention of boars in the Hobbit book or in Lord of the Rings. But on the game, at least, the boar is the official sigil of Brayland, as you can see here on the boar fountain, and the emblems that you found, the banners that you found throughout Bree. This one also has a boar. Well, all of those banners have boars, so it's fitting at least to use that Stonecrop Pipeweed and smoke that boar in Brayland. So that's the reason behind this choice. Now, as I said, it's fairly safe to assume, in my opinion, that Bilbo and the dwarves spent at least one night in the Prancing Pony, and then they must have left Bree through the south gate towards the Lonelands. Now, Frodo also left Brayland through the south gate with Aragorn, Merry, Pippin, Sam. But of course Aragorn had other plans, and after taking some turns in the forest, they ended up in the Mitchwater Marsh. We are not going to the Mitchwater Marsh. There is no mention, reference, anything at all that would lead us to believe that Bilbo went through that marsh. I think he would have complained about it if Thorin had taken them through the marsh. So they had no reason to go through the marsh. The only reason why Aragorn took the hobbits through Mitchwater was to avoid the Nazgul as much as possible, but Bilbo and the dwarves didn't have that problem. So they didn't have any reason at all to avoid the road. So once again, it's just a very, very short line, but it's safe to assume they stayed in the Prancing Pony and then left Bree through the south gate towards the Lonelands. And for the Lonelands, we only have one line in the entire book as well. Let me pull it up for you. They went to the Lonelands where there were no people or inns, and the roads were worse. Got worse every time. And that is everything it says about the Lonelands. Now, there were no inns, says in The Hobbit, but on the Fellowship of the Ring, when they are crossing the Lonelands after Frodo gets stabbed, Aragorn says something along the lines of, nobody has actually measured the distance between the Forsaken Inn and the last bridge, but that's the path that we must go now. And, well, it's the only mention of the Forsaken Inn in the entire book. in Lord of the Rings. But with that, the devs gave us the Forsaken Inn in the Lowlands. And that is our next stop, actually, in all this. Because, once again, it doesn't say it in the book. Well, it says there are no inns, but then Lord of the Rings sort of contradicts that. But if the Forsaken Inn existed during Bilbo's time, it's, once again, fairly safe to assume that they would have spent the night in the Forsaken Inn. But even if there was no Forsaken Inn when Bilbo made this journey, the Forsaken Inn is still right next to the road, so Bilbo and everybody else would still have passed through that spot. And well, I need to add some smoking spots in this early portion of the game, because otherwise just watching me run around until we get to the troll shows, that I don't think that's gonna be interesting for anybody. I mean, the whole idea of this entire video is also using the pipe weed, so it doesn't seem interesting to me not to smoke any pipe weed until the troll shows. It's a long journey, nonetheless, as we have already discussed. Anyway, we are now here at the Forsaken Inn with the broken roof and everything. I truly, the first time I noticed this broken roof was, I don't remember exactly when. I was reading a developer diary on the LOTRO website that was talking about the Forsaken Inn. This was the very early days of the free-to-play transition, so that's late 2010, around that time. And then I went here and I saw this and I was amazed by that little detail. Adds so much character to the inn. Now, on the Forsaken Inn, we are gonna smoke Tyfield. So let's take a look at Tyfield. But you know what? I want to do this with the inn inside. Yeah, I like this one a little bit better. As I was saying, let us go with Tyfield. The induction does take a long time. Multiply that for 25 different variants of pipeweed and we're gonna stay here a long time watching Beriathan smoke. Anyway, Tyfield produces a square. And there's barely any link between the square and the lowlands. I struggle a little bit with the geographical shapes on one hand and with the lowlands on the other hand, because once again there's little to no relation. But in my head, let's say the square is the piece of roof that the Forsaken Inn is missing, and let's leave it at that and continue our way towards the troll shows. Now, as I was saying, there are 25 different variants of pipeweed that we will smoke today. Technically, there are 25 pouches of pipeweed that you can actually get and harvest from a field. If you're a farmer, you can get 24 of those. But if we count in Ronald Dwell's pipe, then you get 25. But for this pipe, you might remember you need to help Ronald Dwell in Evendim. It's not that long, but it still takes some time. And there is a video about it in case you want to refresh your mind about Ronald Dwell. Ronald Dwell being an Easter egg, a reference to Professor Tolkien in-game. We did that video to commemorate Professor Tolkien's birthday. And today we are doing the same for Bilbo and Frodo. And of course, this is also the anniversary of the publication of The Hobbit in the UK. The Hobbit was published September the 21st, 1937. Frodo's and Bilbo's birthday is September the 22nd. So we are celebrating all this on September the 22nd. Once again, very excited about this. And tomorrow, September the 23rd, there is actually an event on one of my local libraries organized by our local Tolkien Society, and we are gonna do we're gonna read The Hobbit out loud. It's gonna be a very, very nice event. It's sponsored by Tolkien's publisher here in my country and everything. So it seems they have some additional surprises in store for us. Maybe they will give away some books. I would love to get me some Tolkien books. My collection is far from complete, and I would love to get some of that. But I'm also really excited because I will be taking my son to it, and hopefully by reading The Hobbit and listening to it, he will get interested in it and will read it himself. I really hope so. Oh, that would be amazing, sharing The Hobbit and later on Lord of the Rings with my son. I've been dreaming about that day ever since he was born, to be honest with you. And I even wanted at some point for Halloween to disguise him as a baby hobbit. And maybe I could go as Gandalf or Aragorn or something like that. But getting a baby hobbit costume is not as easy as it sounds. At least I don't know where to look. I don't have the ability to make that costume myself, so I let the opportunity pass. But now that I have my second son, maybe he can go as the baby hobbit. My eldest can go as an adult hobbit like, I don't know, Frodo or whatever, and I can still go as Gandalf, why not? Aragorn or whatever. I don't know. If you know how to get a hobbit costume, please let me know in the comments. I would love to do that family cosplay. Maybe I can even get my wife into it as well. I don't see her doing that, but maybe if everybody else is doing it, she will agree to the idea. I hope so. That would be very fun. We can even, I don't know, enter a cosplay contest or something and quite possibly win. I need to keep you posted on that. Maybe even some pictures, if I ever get to do that. It's something I always wanted to do. Lord of the Rings cosplay, oh my god. Of course, the movies are the visual reference everybody has. And if I am to compare myself to a character from the movies, I am not that... I don't look that much like those characters, but I can see myself going maybe as Boromir or Faramir. The game versions, of course, don't look anything like their movie counterparts, so I don't think I look like any of the game characters. But at least if I were to do cosplay of the movies, I can try going for Boromir or Faramir. I think maybe Boromir. Sounds like a plan. Now the Lonelands, my god, it's also a really long journey. Once again, in The Hobbit it's just one line. In Lord of the Rings is half a chapter, which is still about 10 pages, 15 pages. A whole lot. But we can finally see the last bridge on the horizon. My god, we've been doing this for half an hour already, and we are nowhere near done. And I think I'll need to do some mild editing in some moments, some specific moments of this journey, so that we can actually do the exact same path that Bilbo did. But I'll explain that to you when we get to those locations where we need to do some edits. For the time being, here we are at long last at the last bridge and the troll shaws. And once again, we have just a small description of the troll shaws in the book. Melancholic hills darkened by trees. And in some of them there were old castles, as if they were built by cursed people. Once again, I'm translating this from my own edition, my own Spanish edition. Tolkien's language is, of course, far more richer than my own, but you get the idea. And I'll try to find the exact quote and get it somewhere around here. Anyway, I always get a little bit lost in the troll shows because our next stop, as you can imagine, is the Stone Troll's Glade. But I have always struggled finding that place. I always end up getting it for my explorer deeds, but I always do it just blindly stumbling through the troll shows. Because I have no idea how to do it, but if the topographic map is anything to go by, we can take this path, and it seems promising. And maybe the topographic map will at long last teach me how to get there consistently, because I have no idea. Is it through here, or is it a little bit further north? Because if I'm reading this map correctly, I think it's a little bit further north. Now, I would also love to find the entrance to the cave where the trolls were keeping their treasure, but I'm not holding my breath for that. I struggle finding the glade. I expect I would struggle as well trying to find the cave. I think I had to take the turn at the previous one. This one doesn't seem to be it, but hopefully this one will also take us to the Stone Troll's Glade. Here we can see some of the ruins that the book mentioned. But there is also a difference in here. Well, maybe not so much. Because these ruins were originally of the old kingdom of Arnor, and this portion of Arnor later on became Rhudaur. Well, Rhudaur allied with the Witch King, if I remember correctly. So that description of cursed people applies in that regard, but well, as a Gondorian, it hurts a little bit to hear those adjectives to refer to the old kingdom of Arnor, because that's not what the kingdom was at its peak. Oh look! The entrance to the cave! I did it! I don't know how I did it, but I did it. It's not that far from the glade anyway. It's a shame we cannot enter the cave. Here we have, of course, the entrance, the keyhole that Gandalf couldn't open until Bilbo got the key. Like, hey, I found this key. It fell from one of the trolls before they turned to stone. Is that going to be useful to open this door? Bilbo's naivety at the start of the book was so funny. Bilbo is funny throughout the book, but the very first few chapters, he is especially funny. Here we have the pots. They are empty now, of course. Bilbo and the dwarves have already claimed the treasure, but now we can follow the path. And we should be really close to the Stone Trolls. Ah, there we go. Awesome. Tom Burton will. And you will also remember that when Frodo and Aragorn, Merry and Pippin were fleeing from the Nazgul, they also, by pure chance, ended up at this same spot. I don't remember if I have a picture of these trolls, so I want to take one. I barely come here anyway, so that's what we're gonna do. And we are gonna do our next stop on this Pipewood tour, and this is gonna be Wizard's Fire. Wizard's Fire, which is in here. and in the shape of a flying bird. Now, that is the exact same effect that you get from smoking Ronald Droll's pipe. So since they are basically the same, it's also fitting for us to also smoke Ronald Droll's pipe in here too. Maybe we can get the bird from a different angle so that you can see the animation a little bit better. There goes a bird. Now, why a bird? Some of you might already guess the reason why, but when Frodo and Aragorn and the hobbits came in here, at some point Frodo said, or was it Aragorn? One of those two said, well, there were signs that these trolls were turned to stone, because if you take a close look, you will see one bird has made his nest behind the ear of one of these trolls. No living troll would allow that. And as you can see, certain enough, here we have the nest behind this ear. So this is the reason why we are smoking a bird-themed pipeweed on this location, to honor the birds that were brave enough to build their nest behind the ear of a troll. Can you imagine? I mean, I can't imagine how a bird will come to that conclusion, because even though they are stone, they are still trolls. They are still hideous. They still look dangerous. Dangerous enough to brave, to fool 4 hobbits and the king of Gondor. So in a way, that bird was braver than Aragorn. Can you believe that? I have never thought about that, but that's kind of true. Of course, well, Aragorn on one hand had already heard from the hobbits that there were trolls on the road, and he was a little bit prevented against that. And they were fleeing from the Nazgûl, so they were also very cautious about everything. So I think we can excuse Aragorn and the hobbits in that regard, but still, there's a bird who braved to build its nest behind the ear of a troll, and that bird has guts, is all I would say on the matter. Now we will continue our journey after Gandalf saves Bilbo and the dwarves. They continue their journey through the troll shaws and towards Rivendell, and once again, this is a really short moment in the book. Is what, 1 page? 2 pages? Talking about them walking around the hills looking for the hidden path. And it said something along the lines of, even though Gandalf knew the way, and even though Gandalf knew where to look, it was still hard to find the signs and to find the right path. Which goes to explain why Rivendell got its name, the Hidden Valley, and why Sauron wasn't able to find it after Elrond came there. Because in the game, of course, is really easy to find. But as you can see from the books, in reality is not that easy to find the Hidden Valley. Of course, you first need to cross the Fort of Bruinen, and Elrond commands those waters, so if he doesn't want to, you cannot pass. And then you need to climb and you need to look for the hidden path. So there's still a lot to do in order to get to Rivendell. But to Rivendell we go. That is our next stop. We are just getting started now. Oh my god. I'm taking a look. I have this written down. Where are we gonna stop? And what kind of pipeweed we are gonna smoke at each location so that I can keep track of all of it. Oh my god, we are just getting started. I'm starting to doubt that I will be able to record this in one sitting as it was my initial intent. We are almost 1 hour in and we are barely making it to Rivendell. So yeah, I would expect at least 2 hours, maybe even closer to 3, to be able to do all this. And of course we will not be making the journey back. You can imagine the journey back. There is barely any difference for the journey back. The only difference I can really think of is Bilbo and Gandalf crossed the Misty Mountains instead of going through Goblin-town. That's basically it. They still came back to Rivendell, then they still came back to the Trollshaws and reclaimed the treasure. And once again, we don't get anything regarding the Lone Lands and Brilland. Bilbo just gets to the Shire and stops the auction on his goods. So yeah, all that is to say, we will not be making the journey back. I want to finish this episode and have it released on the actual date of Bilbo's birthday, the 22nd, and if I do the journey back, that's not gonna happen. And if I do the journey back, this video will be twice as long, and I don't think I can keep that content. I can keep talking about 5 hours about Bilbo's birthday. I mean, maybe I can. The real question is if you want to hear me talk about Bilbo's birthday for 5 hours. Now Bilbo and the dwarves, of course, had their ponies and they traveled a long part of the road on horseback. But I don't know, I'm enjoying this walk of sorts, and well, we have the run speed boosts, so there is the horse is still faster, but I think we are going fast enough. Well, we of course can enjoy the scenery, bathe in the view, remember a few details from the books, discuss them, so there is no rush, there is no hurry. I hope you will agree with me. Before you know it, here we are, Rivendell. The gates of Imladris. There we go. It's been so long since I came to Rivendell like this. I think the last time I contemplated the valley from this high, from this vantage point, was when I was finishing the epilogue of the Black Book of Mordor. When was that released? That was released... what, November last year? Almost a year ago the video was released, and I recorded that one even earlier than that, so for me it's been close to a year and a half. Well, maybe just a full year since I came to Rivendell the good old-fashioned way, instead of using masters or stable routes or anything else other than walking. Not every time you can, or are you willing to do this sort of traveling. And there we have it at long last, the last homely house. That is our next step. Now I haven't decided if I want to actually enter the last homely house, but we can do that. We can say hello to Bilbo. before going on our merry way. Why not? We are already here anyway. I think this is also the first time Beriathan has entered the remodeled Last Homely house since it was updated, at least on camera. I have come here a couple times before, but I think this is the first time you will see this on camera, and now we don't have loading screens for this. I still don't get used to this. It's amazing that we can seamlessly come here, and here we have Bilbo and Lindir. And hey Bilbo! You'll never guess what I'm doing today. Let's celebrate. Let me have some smoke with you. And here in Rivendell, we are gonna go with the pouches of Roper's Twist pipeweed. So there we go. Let's hope this NPC doesn't get in the way when I finish smoking. Okay, this is sort of a spiral, a coil of rope spiraling a little bit. As I said before, these sort of geometrical abstract shapes, I really struggle with them. I don't have nothing for this. I think I had an idea of how to justify this pipeweed in Rivendell, but it has escaped me. It's a rope. I don't remember anything regarding ropes on the Hobbit. Roper's Twist. I don't remember what idea I had initially. The only thing I can think of right now is when Bilbo and the dwarves had to leave Rivendell, they were of course given new packs, new parcels. They had to tie them up and yeah, on top of the ponies' backs, and they needed rope for that. I know that's lame, but I don't have any other idea for this. Some of these are really hard, but I think other than that, the pipeweed choices we have made so far have been really spot on, if I may say so myself. And now that we are here in Rivendell, we can continue after coming here to Rivendell, after Elrond helped decipher Thor's map with the moon runes and everything else. Well, they continued the journey towards the Misty Mountains. The idea was to cross the Misty Mountains from up above, but things not always go according to plan. Okay, I hope I don't forget the path I need to take here in the Misty Mountains. I did explore it a little bit, just making sure that I have my route traced. I just hope to remember it, because that's another portion of the game that always confuses me. That portion of the Misty Mountains has always confused me. But let's hope this is not the case. Let's hope we are as lucky as we were with the Stone Troll's Glade, because I really expected to struggle with that one a lot, and I'm happy to see that was not the case. Oh, here we are at long last. The Misty Mountains. It's only taken us an hour to get here. Jeez. But geographically at least. This is sort of the halfway point, right? Between the Shire and the Lonely Mountain. We crossed the Shire, we crossed Rayland, we crossed the Trollshaws, the western side of the Misty Mountains. Yeah, I think this is the halfway point, at least geographically. Let's hope that counts for something. But once again, it seems my initial estimation of me taking 2 hours to do all this was spot on, yeah. Around 2 hours, a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. I left the road and I didn't realize at which point I did. I do tend to get lost in the Misty Mountains my fair share as well. Alright, so let me see. It's been a long time since I came here to the Misty Mountains, but if memory serves me right, we need to go through here. We're trying to get to the Eastern Brewing Source. Seems I was right, seems we are on the right path. This also gives me the chance to get a couple more locations for some of the Explorer deeds I have not completed. I don't think I will complete any deed today, but at least I can say I advanced them a little bit. And I might come back later to get the rest. There we go, Brewing Source East. Which itself is like halfway point through the Misty Mountains. A little bit. So yeah, safe to assume this video is gonna take about 2 hours. Now once again, it's been a long time since last I came to the Misty Mountains. And let us just hope I'm following the right path. I know where I want to go, I know where I need to go. I just don't remember exactly how. But it seems I'm on the right track. Okay, there we go. Northern High Pass. This sort of bridge that I always remember. It is Tower. Once again, another location we really haven't heard too much about. And, well, here we have Vinderhall. This is not our next stop, but I just needed to orient myself a little bit. Yeah, our exit, our path continues through the western side of this high pass, this sort of narrow ways. You will also remember when Bilbo and the dwarves were crossing the Misty Mountains, they were caught in the middle of a confrontation of stone giants. Confrontation game, whatever, it was dangerous. Really scary, especially for poor old Bilbo. And so Philly and Killy were tasked with going ahead and seeing if there was a safe shelter where they could spend the night. And Philly and Killy returned too soon, assuring them they had found such a place. Little did they know what was in store for them. We do. But we are still doing this for good old Bilbo. I think, yeah, I missed it. I also get a little bit confused following this path. But I think I'm on the right track once again. Treasure cache! Oh, but that one is on top of that. Oh my god, I'll need to come back for that one later, I guess. And if I'm not mistaken... yeah. Here's the cave, the Black Crack. This brings memories, most of all from the Bakshi film, the Hobbit animated movie. I have not watched it fully, but something that has always stuck with me is the Goblin song in Goblin-town. Down, down to Goblin-town. So cool. So funny. That song is so funny. Doesn't seem it was written by orcs, by goblins. But it was. And they did a great job. The song is great. Well, it's great because you are not the one who is being dragged below ground, but... well, we are coming here willingly today, so I guess we can still sing the song. So now, well, after Bilbo and the Hobbits were captured by the goblins, they were taken through this passageway, but I have just remembered we were supposed to smoke a little bit in the Black Crack. My bad. I am so sorry about that. Let me go back to the Black Crack. We're gonna take our next pouch of pipeweed. I was so excited to go back into Goblin-town that I totally forgot about the Black Crack, but you will remember they found the Black Crack, as I was saying. Philly and Killy came saying they had found it. Everybody knew they had not explored totally, but the snow... The weather was really bad, so they still went for it. And well, they did whatever they could to have a good time. They were talking. Gandalf was also distracting them with smoke rings, as he usually does. And as Gandalf did, we are going to continue with a pouch of Rushlight Pipeweed. I don't remember what this one does, so bear with me. Rotating ring. Yeah, a rotating ring. I remember now. And that was what Gandalf was doing. He was sending out rings that were basically, yeah, rotating and going to the roof of the cave. A very simple thing. And as I was saying, well, that's how they were spending their time. They were trying to, well, they fell asleep. Everyone except Bilbo. And he was the one who alerted them when the goblins came out of the Black Crack and took them to Goblin-town. And as I was saying, the song, at least in the animated movie, is really cool. I enjoyed that one a lot. On the Jackson film, not so much, but well, they had already presented orcs and goblins as such terrible creatures on the Lord of the Rings films that it would have been very jarring to have them burst into a cheerful song of any kind in this movie. So I can see why they didn't do it. But as I was saying, well, the animated song is so good. That one is so good. And then, well, the goblins with their whips were taking the dwarves deeper and deeper into Goblin-town until they reached the throne of the Great Goblin. We still have some ways to go before we get to the Great Goblin, but we are making our way there. We are still in the tunnels. Poor dwarves. Poor Bilbo. And during this, that's when they lost the ponies, they lost their packages, they lost everything. The goblins took it all. Alright, one more boulder. And here we are in... Well, we are still in the Goblin tunnels, but we are getting close. Eglanur, yeah. We're getting really close, and in fact... Yeah, this is the entrance to the throne in Goblin-town. Back in the day, I don't remember if you could enter here. I know one of the quests that you do here in Goblin-town has an instance where you enter the throne room and fight a great goblin. But you also need to remember on the level 85 days we got, as part of the Road to Erebor instances, we got the throne room here in Goblin-town, and ever since this has been a portal to the instance, which is a shame because we don't have the time to do the instance now. Even if it were to be a low-level instance for us to face roll, that would still take time, and we don't have time today, so we'll need to, well, just conform ourselves with that little glimpse of the throne room before moving on. And here we can see the mural showing the goblins and the orcs that had ambushed Gandalf, the dwarves, and the Hobbit before they were rescued by the eagles. And we are approaching that location, but we are not quite there yet. Now, after Gandalf rescued them from the throne room and they made their escape, the goblins pursued them. Bilbo fell. He was separated from the group. When he woke up all alone, one of the first things he thought of doing was smoking some tobacco, but he was out of fire, if I remember correctly, so he was out of luck. He couldn't smoke any of it. But something that Tolkien says in the book is it was fortunate for him. Who knows what would have happened if he had smoked in the middle of those tunnels. So instead he went on until he reached Gollum's cave, We have that ominous mural in there showing us the way. And here we are at Gollum's cave. We really couldn't let the opportunity pass for us to actually come here to the cave where Bilbo and Gollum had their little game of riddles. And here we have Gollum's boat. And there we have the island. Do we smoke on the island? Bilbo never got to the island himself. But this is where Gollum came looking for the ring, before realizing too late what had happened. So yeah, I think we can do this in here. And the next one on the list is a pouch of Gamwich braid pipeweed. So let's take Gamwich braid. This one is a funny one too. A fish! Oh, did you see that? Of course, Gollum was living on a diet of basically fish with the occasional goblin. And well, he aimed for hobbit meat, but he couldn't get it. But mostly fish, just like the one we saw there on the Gamwich bright smoke. And after Gollum went and attacked Bilbo, then Bilbo tried to escape, got on the ring by mistake, and then was just a matter of following Gollum to the exit of Goblin-town. Now, as far as I know, there is no way to leave Goblin-town and get to the Vales of Anduin from here, which is a shame. Can we do that? I mean, we have this sort of boulder blocking the way. I don't know if this is the one that Bilbo used to escape. He jumped above Gollum and he barely made it. And then as he was trying to escape through the gate, some of his buttons got lost. And that is how we got the deed for Bilbo's buttons. But again, I'm not entirely sure how that correlates to LOTRO's version of Goblin-town. And once again, it's a shame that we don't get to see the proper exit. But Bilbo was following Gollum, and Gollum was counting the passages on the left and on the right. And I think the closest we have to it is this long hallway of sorts, because you can see the passageways. They are blocked, but you can see them. And in fact, I wonder if you count them, will you get to the exit? Maybe we can try and do that. Bear with me. It's been a long while since last I explored Goblin-town, and it never had occurred to me that Gollum might have been counting the passageways. So Bilbo started following, and Gollum started counting the passages first on the left, then on the right. So that is one on the left, one on the right, two on the left, two on the right, three on the left, four on the right. Is that one? A fourth one? Doesn't seem so. 5, 4, 6, 5, 6, 7. It was the 6th on the left. And I'm inclined to believe it's one of these ones that is blocked, where Bilbo finally escaped Gollum and eventually escaped Goblin-town. But once again, we cannot get to the eastern gate of Goblin-town through here, so I'm just gonna cut to the entrance of Goblin-town through the Vales of Anduin to resume our journey. Alright, so here we are at the east gate of Goblin-town. There is a hidden doorway, but we cannot use it because you can only enter through here when you're questing in the Vales of Anduin and you get to the end of one of the quest lines, and there is an instance inside of Goblin-town, but in my opinion, that is sort of a missed opportunity the game has right now, not connecting Goblin-town to the east side. I understand why they do it. You wouldn't want a level 50 character coming through Goblin-town to the Vales and be greeted by by 3 goblins at level 120. Nobody would stand a chance like so, but maybe they can do something about it. I don't know. I would really love to have a seamless experience that way. Anyway, let's continue our path, our journey. As you can see here, there are some really weird purple spots on the ground. This was a graphical glitch that was introduced, if I remember correctly, at least this particular portion of the glitch here in the Vales, with the release of update 37 on the stat crunch. But I'm not so sure about it. I've seen many people report this issue, but I don't know. I don't know when this started. Anyway, following on Bilbo's footsteps, I don't remember where to go next. He just, came through the valley, through, let's call this the main path. And around this place is where he reunited with the dwarves. Yeah, I think it was... Yeah, this clearing over here. So most of the locations we're gonna see now are part of one of 2 deeds to follow Bilbo's footsteps. Here in the Vales of Anduin, where is it? Here in the Vales of Anduin, we have Chronicle of the Company, and where Bilbo reunites with the company displays how they jumped. Gandalf was astonished as they all shouted with surprise and delight. And on this particular location, I have also chosen to engage in more smoking, and on this time, we're gonna go with Southern Star. Don't remember what the Southern Star does. I hope it's gonna be a fun one, and let's check. That one is a triangle. All right. Once again, struggling a little bit with geometrical shapes, but a triangle, sort of an arrow pointing where they met. Once again, those particular shapes are a little bit tricky, and I hope you don't mind, but let's continue because our next stop is really close by, and this is where, well, they continued their journey. And they came to this sort of ring of trees, the work clearing. And before they realized, they were surrounded by works because this was, of course, their meeting point. And you can see still here the location where Gandalf and the dwarves and Bilbo climbed the trees to escape the dwarves, and where later on Gandalf would start throwing his fires to fend the works off, before the goblins came and tried to set the forest on fire. And once again, this is another location of the deed where the company encountered the works. You would have laughed if you had seen the dwarves up in the trees with their beards hanging down, like old gentlemen. Poor dwarves. It's funny now. It's funny from a distance, but for them it wasn't funny at all. And on this work clearing, our next stop is... We already did Southern Star, so we are gonna go with Gold Fire Pipeweed. let us check this one and let's see what this one does. And this is a ring of smoke with a big point in the middle. There are different ways to interpret this one. You can think of the ring of works surrounding the trees where the company was, or you can also see this as a sort of explosion, a graphical representation of the explosions that Gandalf produced with his fires. Either way, that is what happened at this location, and at this point is where the Lord of the Eagles noticed what was going on, came down to see, found Gandalf and the dwarves and Bilbo, and took them all to their eyrie. But well, we can reach the eyrie, but we cannot ask an eagle to do it for us. So let me jump to the eyrie and then we'll resume Bilbo's journey. Very well, here we are at the eyrie. As you can see here, we have Meneldor, Landroval, and Gwaihir, the Wind Lord that we of course have met different times on our journey. But this is where they brought Bilbo and the dwarves. Most likely this is where they slept before they were taken off by the eagles. But now that we are here, our next pouch of pipeweed that we're gonna take is the eagle nest. So here on top of the rock, because why not, with the bales there on the horizon. Oh, looks so good. So this one is an eagle flapping its wings to start its flight. And of course, it's very fitting to have such an eagle on the eyrie where, well, Gwaihir and his kin set for many different locations to, well, for the enemy and do what eagles do. But that is it for the eyrie. After that, the eagles, well, they couldn't take them all the way to the Lonely Mountain, but they were gentle enough to drop them at the Carrock. And that is our next step. Here in the Carrock, we also have a nice view of the lands down below. And let me see. Yeah, that's the Bjorning who's there. You don't see the house, but that is the land of the Bjornings. It's a shame about the purple spots on the floor, but this is our next spot for the smoke. And on this occasion, we're gonna go with Eagle Wings Pipeweed. This is a pipeweed that you get is a reward for questing in Lindleby, but you also get the recipe. It's a tier 13 recipe, so that you can get more for yourself if you so choose, if you like this particular pipeweed. This pipeweed is also an eagle, but this one is already hovering, it's already gliding. So it's flapping its wings, but not as much as when they start the flight, which in my head makes sense. They start their flight on the eyrie, so they need to get their wind going. They need to flap their wings a lot, but when they are already soaring, they just need to maintain the height. So that's why we have these two eagle themed pipeweeds, and that's why one of them goes for the eyrie and the other one here on the Carrock. Now, after being dropped on the Carrock, then Gandalf led them to Beorn, as he was the only one that could help them in these lands. And you will remember, well, Gandalf asked the dwarves to come in pairs to not startle Beorn, and that's exactly what I did. But something that I saw on Reddit, on one of the Tolkien themed Reddit subreddits that's out there, is something that I really hadn't noticed, is that this is the exact same strategy Gandalf used with Bilbo, asking the dwarves to come in pairs so that Bilbo didn't find himself in the presence of 13 dwarves in his home all at once. And, well, I'm a little bit ashamed it took me almost 20 years to notice that. More than 20 years. No, about 20 years to notice that. But I guess I don't blame Bilbo for not realizing on his own, but after you find out, it is so evident. How did I not see it? How did Bilbo not see it? That's exactly what happened to him. Gandalf is very cunning. And he knows how to deal with people too. And now we are approaching the Orninghus, of course. Let's follow the road. There are more locations related to the deed in here as well, of course. The Eagles, where the Eagles took the company to safety, that's in the Eyrie. Where the Eagles set down the company in the Carrock. Where the company gathered at the Carrock, that was at the base of the Carrock. Where the company walked through Beorn's lands, Beorn's bee pastures, which is around this place. Where the company came upon Beorn's house. Where Beorn meets the company. Where the company had supper with Beorn. All this is part of the deed that well, you were able to see as I made my way through the Vales initially. That was episodes 465 to 480, something along those lines, if you want to review my journey, my initial journey through the Vales of Anduin. But here we are in the Orninghus with Green Beorn and with Girta. We don't have Beorn, but we have Green Beorn. And here is the next stop on our Pipeweed tour. So after doing Eagle Wings, we are gonna do Berry Berry. This is another variety of Pipeweed that you get for reward after questing in Lindleby, that you once again get the recipe for you to craft in case you want to keep smoking this one. And on this case, this takes the form of a bear according to the wiki, and you hear the roar there as well, which is pretty self-explanatory. A bear in Grimbeorn's house, right? So I don't think I need to say anything else on that regard, other than that, well, the company stayed with Beorn a couple days. Beorn then sent them on their way to Mirkwood, as it was the only way to reach Erebor in a reasonable amount of time. And as such, the company went to the Forest Gate, and that is when Gandalf announced that he was leaving them. Leaving them to fight the Necromancer in the south and expel him from Dol Guldur with the White Council before he could get stronger, and that is when the Necromancer was revealed to be Sauron. All of that we saw on the last books of Volume 2. Sort of a flashback as we were looking for a way into Dol Guldur. So that is the in-world explanation for Gandalf's disappearance, of course, but the other thing is, up until this point, Gandalf was the one that was saving the company consistently, and Tolkien, of course, wanted Bilbo to grow into the hero of the story, so he needed to send Gandalf away for a little bit. Here at the Forest Gate, it's when that happened, and here at the Forest Gate is where we will smoke our next pouch of Pipeweed. In this case, we are going with Sweet Lobelia. Let's see what Sweet Lobelia has in store for us. What an ironic name, of course, Sweet Lobelia. In this case, we have two rings going apart from each other, much like Gandalf and the dwarves. This is where they parted ways. And then Bilbo and the dwarves alone entered the forest, the dreaded Mirkwood. And well, we've been in Mirkwood before, of course. here in Erin Lasgalen in the northern portion of Mirkwood, which ironically, as I mentioned also on my original episodes in this place, is darker than the portion of Mirkwood that surrounds Tol Guldur. I really love it. I really love how the LOTRO team was able to achieve that oppressing and dark atmosphere in here that mirrors exactly what was told in the books, especially if you're traversing Mirkwood at night, like we are about to do. The sun's about to go down. Then you really understand why the dwarves got to feel the way they did, and why they were so despaired about the forest. Thankfully for us, in-game is a short span amount of time. But this is also another thing that always amazes me from the book, because the very first time I read The Hobbit, I remember this chapter of Mirkwood being so long. It never ended, and the poor dwarves were always miserable and hungry, and it was always dark. They never knew where to go. Bombur fell asleep. It was hardship after hardship. There was no end in sight. You could really feel the oppression in there. But then on subsequent rereadings of The Hobbit, I realized this chapter in Mirkwood is just as long as every other chapter in the book. Is not drastically longer than any other chapter, but it feels that way because Tolkien was able to masterfully evoke those feelings and evoke that oppression and make you feel so lost in the forest. And this is one of my favorite moments in the book. It always has been. Now the night has fallen on the forest at long last. I hope you don't mind, but I'm gonna turn my personal light a little bit. It's not that necessary, maybe. Ever since the last time I came here, when I first came here on my settings, I had my ambient light at 0. Let me show that to you. Without the light, yeah, it's really dark, and it was really hard to see at times. So if you take it all the way to 1, it loses part of the atmosphere. So I think at 50 is a good compromise between the darkness and the oppressiveness of the area, with some clarity for you to see where you need to go, and for you to see the road markers and everything else. So this time around is a little bit easier to traverse the forest, but it's still a very long journey. And fitting as well for all the dwarves endured in the forest. Once again, I'm always amazed to see how short it really is versus how long it feels. But even with that taken into account, is still a long portion of forest that we need to cross. And they were so close to the exit. They missed it. That's one of the other real shames of the story. If they had been just a couple days more patient, they would have gone out of the forest with less trouble. They would have gotten to Lake Town with less trouble. Who knows what would have happened there? That sounds like an interesting stories for the kind of Tolkien YouTubers that do this sort of what if episodes. Yeah, what if Thorin and company hadn't been captured by Thranduil and his elves? What if they were able to cross Mirkwood as the Green Baron advised, What then? What would have happened? I am so curious now to hear those theories. Sounds really interesting to me. Let's see. I'm still going on the right path. I hope you don't mind me pulling them up this much. I really don't want to lose my way. And it's been a long time since last I came to Mirkwood, so... Yeah, I can do that, but... I can do that in just a moment. Talking about the message I just received. Anyway, here we are on the bridge, the river where Bombur fell and fell asleep because of the spell. There was no bridge then, of course, but now there is. So, let me make my way through the forest. Gonna help the Kinnies and then I will be back with you. But this is not a good spot to enter. Oh, did you see there? The eyes opening and closing in the forest? Yeah, awesome. Something that was also mentioned in the book. Something that I also enjoy a lot. I also appreciate the devs taking the time for doing that. It was so amazing. Such a nice detail. Here we have the next stop in our journey. This branch that Bilbo climbed to get atop of the tree, trying to see if there was an end to the forest inside. He couldn't see it because they were in some sort of hollow, and it seemed as if the forest extended indefinitely, but that was not the case. They were really close to the exit, and on top of this tree you can still see them, the black butterflies that Bilbo was so amazed about. And on this branch, on this tree, we are gonna go with Shire Sweetleaf Pipeweed. So, you will see which one this is in just a moment. I also enjoy this one too. Quite a lot. A butterfly, 3 butterflies. 3 smoke butterflies to accompany the black butterflies on the tree. So this one is, once again, pretty much self-explanatory on its own. Just butterflies to accompany the other ones. And here we have the point at which the dwarves left the road, going after the fires and looking for some food and some help. You know how that ended. You know what happened in here. But for us, that still means a couple more stops on our journey. And I think... yeah, I missed the turn. It was around this tree, rather. They were ambushed by spiders, and this is the very first time that Bilbo had to save the dwarves all on his own from the spiders, from becoming the spiders' meal, basically. This was the place, Imnagath. Once again, there are many of these locations are also part of these explorer deeds, where the company had supper with Beorn and where the company enters Mirkwood. And where Bilbo returns home, this is only the Vales of Anduin, but if we go here to the strongholds of the north, we have the Path of the Company, where they enter Mirkwood, where they grew to hate the forest, where Bombur fell, where Bilbo climbed the trees, where the company was lured off the path, where the company was ambushed by spiders, where Bilbo frees the company from the webs. This is the point at which we are right now, and in this particular place we are gonna go with Southlinch, which is this one in here. So let me see what Southlinch does, because I don't remember. A puff of smoke. Okay, just a puff of smoke. Much like Bilbo appearing and disappearing in a puff. That's all I got. But I think that one is a little bit better explained than some of the other ones, so I'm still happy with this one. Anyway, then the dwarves were captured by the elves and brought to Felaggoth. And Bilbo put on the ring before they could notice him and just follow them to the caverns. And yeah, we are about to reach Felaggoth to continue our exploration, our following Bilbo's path. We are close to the 2-hour mark now. But we are almost done. We just need to do a couple more things in Lake Town and Dale and the Lonely Mountain. So yeah, around the 2-hour mark seems like a reasonable amount of time for this sort of endeavor. If you're going on foot, if you're going on horse, might take a little bit shorter, but maybe not that much. I'm not sure. Anyway, here we are on Felaggoth. I'll see you on the other side. Okay, so here we are in Felaggoth. There are a couple other locations related to the deed in here that, once again, we have already seen on our original episodes. Here in Felaggoth, we have where Thorin was brought before the Elven King, where the company was jailed by the Elven King. We don't need to check all that. That first location with Thorin is really out of our way, so we're gonna skip that one. We are gonna pass right by the dungeons where the other dwarves were held. So, well, there's that. But our actual stop in here, as you can imagine, is the wine cellars, as that is where Bilbo and the dwarves were able to escape from Felaggoth. So that is our next stop, and for that one, you might remember we are also going to use a specific item. We'll need to deal with the RNG a little bit. You know, I have my issues with the RNG, so I might need to give this a couple tries. I don't know exactly how many, hopefully not that long, because we are about to use an empty barrel that will take us to one random location in Erin Lasgalen. And I enjoyed that item a lot. It adds a lot of flavor as well, being able to retrace Bilbo's steps even on that regard. So I think that is awesome. But yeah, there is some RNG involved, and there was also some grinding involved, because this barrel requires you to be at least friend standing with the elves of Felaggoth, as you can see in here. Thankfully, we have already done that, so we don't need to worry about that. But before we actually grab the barrel, let me go ahead and take our next our next pouch of pipeweed for this episode, and that one is gonna be Mightyfoot pipeweed. So I have that one, I think it's in here, yeah. Mightyfoot pipeweed. So let's see what this one does. Okay, so we have a row of 3 rings and they go through each other. So the reasoning behind this choice for this specific location is these rings are going through each other. They are getting stuffed into each other, much like what Bilbo did to the dwarves, stuffing each one of them in a barrel with a little bit of hay, if I remember correctly, to give them some cushion for the journey. And well, he did as best as he could, and the barrels were quite stuffed, quite heavy as well. Some of the elves were complaining that the barrels were heavy and they were sending full wine barrels to the men of LOTRO. So that's what the 3 rings do for me. That's why I chose them for this location. Now we're gonna use this barrel, and once again it might take me a couple tries before I get to the actual location where I want to be, where I want to get with this barrel. So I'll see you on the other side. Hopefully this is the one, we'll see. Oh my god, at long last. I lost count how many times it took. At least 5 or 6. I was going crazy, but here we finally are. This is really close to the location where Bilbo and the dwarves actually came ashore. So let us go to that specific spot, and that is our next stop. And it's about here, which is a little bit of an opening in here. Yeah, it's around this spot where Bilbo and the dwarves came ashore, and this is our next stop as well. So where the barrels came ashore near Loegland, and the elves were making a raft of the barrels with the dwarves still inside, and would soon be steering it downstream to Laketown. And well, that's kind of important, because the next pouch of pipeweed here for us is sweet galenas. So we're gonna take a deep breath of it. And there we go. That one is a boat. And that is for the rafts that the elves used to take the barrels downstream. It's not as fancy as the boat we got on the smoke, but you get the idea, and that's what we are honoring in here. Now our next stop is crossing Loegland, the spot where Bilbo actually took the dwarves out of the barrels. At long last I can continue my journey. Took me many tries. Well, it technically got it on the second try, but then I took a path entirely different from the one I had taken initially. So I preferred to start over and give it another go, but oh my god, it took me so many tries after that. It was driving me crazy. But we are back on track, and as you have seen, we are just basically following the path marked by the deed. We are visiting many of those locations. The deed basically does the job for us, so I hope you don't mind. We are just following along. But I think what we are doing with the pipeweed is good enough, and really makes it all come together, the way in which we are honoring Bilbo by smoking the pipeweed as he likes. But also how the shapes of the smoke are part of telling the story. So I think it adds an extra flavor that is enough for us to differentiate it from just going through the locations marked by the deed. And we are not doing every single location marked by the deed either, so there's also that to keep in mind. So let us go to that spot where Bilbo took the dwarves out of the barrels, which is a little bit further south, which is around this spot. Well, here we have Bilbo already sitting at these barrels because, well, since we are in the middle of the Baggins birthday event, you will remember from last year I did this new quest that was added after the release of update 22, when this location was added to the game. So it's also very fitting that we get another figure of Bilbo, so that we can have another pouch of pipeweed as we stand here. So, where Bilbo freed the company from their barrels. If you want to go on with the silly adventure, you had better slap your arms and rub your legs and try and help me get the others out while there is a chance. That's what Bilbo said to Thorin. So they were taking the dwarves out of the barrels, and for this one we are gonna go with Hornblower, which is this one in here. It seems Bilbo has his pipe in hand, or at least it seems he should by his model. And we are following along. So this one, as you will see in here, is 2 rings, one coming through each other. So this is reminiscent of what we did in the wine cellar. 3 rings going through each other to signal the dwarves coming into the barrels, and now we have 2 rings going through each other to signal the dwarves coming out of the barrels. But this time around we have 2 rings instead of 3, because in a way the dwarves did lose a little bit on the journey through the barrels. They came out a little bit worse for the wear. It was rough for them, so they didn't get out with as much as what they came up with when they went in. Which it's funny. It's funny for me. It's funny in my opinion, but well, that was that location. And the next one is actually really close because it's in Esgaroth of Old. After the dragon attacked, well, Esgaroth was destroyed, and that is when they rebuilt it a little bit further north, which is the location that we can now visit in-game. But we can still visit this old location of Esgaroth of Old, see the ruins and see the dragon bones, and that is our next stop. Yeah, right next here to the dragon bones is as good a location as any to do the next one, and the next one is gonna be this one in here. Yeah, fungus, fuzzy leaf, pipeweed. And this one I do enjoy a lot as well. You'll see why in just a moment. And this is an arrow, you see? So this is for the black arrow that Bart shoots. The black arrow with which he kills Smaug. So very fitting as well to have this pipeweed right next to the bones of Smaug. And that is the idea. Now we follow Bilbo's footsteps. So here in Esgaroth of Old, Thorin announced his intentions to the mayor and the people, and he was received with great cheer. Basically everybody believed the old prophecies would come true thanks to Thorin. He would take the dragon down, reclaim the mountain, and rivers of gold would flow down the mountain. So with that hope, the people of Laketown gave Thorin and company some ponies, some boats, and they took the lake and then the river upstream. And that is our next stop for our journey. Here we have the rebuilt Laketown. This is of course not the one that Bilbo and the dwarves stayed in, so we're gonna go right past it because our next stop is where Bilbo and the dwarves stopped, or well, where they kind of came ashore. You'll see in just a moment where Thorin declared himself before the Masaratika Laketown, where the company landed at the top of the Long Lake. It says at the top of the Long Lake, but the in-game location is a little bit not on the top. We'll get there in just a moment. But yeah, the location in game is actually through here, but it by the description on the box and what the deed says, it should be on top there, right next to the waterfall. The books say that they went upstream through the river running, and we are still here in the Long Lake. This is the location for the deed, but the book says that they went upstream through the river until they arrived at the desolation of Smaug, so that would leave that really close to Dale. But once again, this is where the game triggers the discovery for the deed. And for this one, we have none of the men from Laketown would stay with them even for a night so near the shadow of the mountain, because when they took the boats and went upstream, that's when they could at last get their first glimpses of the mountain. And that makes this choice of Pipeweed really fitting as well, because this one is gonna be no, not fungus, it's gonna be a pouch of Lindleby leaf pipeweed. As the name implies, this is one that you get by completing the quest chain in Lindleby, but you can also craft it afterwards when you get the recipe. And this one is a really cool one as well. We're gonna take a look just a moment. Garlic is also really excited for that one. And here we have some mountains, not the Lonely Mountain, because, well, there were like 3 or 4 in there, but this nonetheless is to honor the dwarves finally getting the first view of the Lonely Mountain after landing and saying goodbye to the people of Laketown. And with this out of the way, we will continue north. We are fast approaching our destination. It seems the distance are getting shorter as we approach the end, but we still have plenty of stuff to do. And once again, we are, well, following Bilbo's footsteps, the locations he visited. When Bilbo and the dwarves came here, Laketown was still, well, not Laketown, Dale was still in ruins as part of the desolation of the dragons. So we are not gonna stop at Dale either, but we're gonna stop really close to it. Now, as you will remember, I also told you the dwarves came upstream and following the river. I think I would say it's a little bit more plausible for them to land here-ish. And as you can see here, you can get a very good view of the mountain. Just take a look at that. Looks beautiful. Let me see if I can get a better view of it just for my personal archive. That is not every day you can get this view of the mountain. The skies are maybe not as clear as they could be, but it's good enough and it looks gorgeous once again. Here we are really close to Dale. Once again, we are not going to enter Dale, but we will be coming really close to it. So we'll just need to cross the bridge and maybe come around the walls of Dale. You still gotta love the music in here, right? So peaceful. Do enjoy my time in Dale whenever I can come here. And there on the distance we can also see the Raven Hill, which, as you might guess, is gonna be another one of the locations for our journey, but not the one we are heading for. Not quite yet. Almost there, but not quite yet. So we are getting ahead of ourselves a little bit in terms of following the story, because the next stop is right here in Dale. The book doesn't provide you an exact location, but with what we see in game, I think it's fairly reasonable to assume the armies camped near some ruins. It provide better shelter. So after the battle ended and Bilbo woke up at Ravenhill, he found one of the men of Dale that came looking for him, because Thorin was about to say his last goodbyes and he wanted to talk to Bilbo. So Bilbo came down from Ravenhill into Dale, where the armies have camped, and there he could finally meet Thorin and settle down the entire debacle of the Arkenstone. So once again, we don't have an exact location, but I think it's pretty safe to assume it was around this sort of ruins. At least that's what I'm going with. And for this one in particular, we are gonna take a quick breath of Old Toby. So this is the most famous pipeweed in the Shire. It would make sense to use it in the Shire maybe, but I think the shape the smoke takes for this one makes it better fit for this location, because this one in here is a heart with a puff of smoke in the middle. And a heart that is because when Bilbo could finally meet Thorin and they said their goodbyes, Thorin said to him that, well, he was sorry for what had happened, and Bilbo in the end was right. If everybody else cherished food and drink, and the pipe I think was included on that as well, if they cherished all that as much as gold, this would be a better world, a happier world, I think a merrier world. But merrier or sad, I would have to I need to leave it. I have it in here. Once again, I'm translating this from Spanish, so bear with me. I'm glad to have shared your perils, more than what every Baggins could deserve. And Thorin says, well, I wish to part in friendship with you, and I take back my words and deeds before the door. And later on he said, there are in you many virtues that you yourself ignore. Some of courage, some wisdom. If more of us gave more value to food and cheer and song than to treasure gold, this would be a merrier world, but merry or sad, now I must leave it. Goodbye. And then Bilbo leaves and cried until his eyes went red. He was a kind soul, and a long time passed before he had any desire to joke again. So Bilbo's heart was broken after Thorin died, and that is what we are honoring with the Old Toby, with its heart-shaped smoke. But as I said, we were getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, and we are still getting a little bit ahead of ourselves because we are jumping to another point in the story, and that is Ravenhill. When Thorin and company arrived looking for the mountain, they still stopped at Ravenhill to scout the surroundings, and there Bilbo could learn a little bit more about the history of Erebor. But later on, when the Battle of the Five Armies broke out on the slopes of the mountain, Bilbo decided to come here to Ravenhill and make his stand with Thranduil. And that is what we are honoring by stopping in here and taking the next sweet pouch of pipeweed, and in this particular case is gonna be Lengalenas. This is the last kind of pipeweed that you can get on the Farmer's Fair / Summer Festival. So once again, I only have one of these, but hopefully I will remember to stock some more of it next year. For the time being, this smoke of Lengalenas will give us 2 crossed swords, and that is for the Battle of the Five Armies, of course, and Bilbo making his stand alongside Thranduil, and we are almost done with our retreading of Bilbo's footsteps, because our next stop now is the secret door. After scouting the surroundings at Ravenhill, Thorin and company went on to look for the secret door and open the secret door. We sadly cannot open the secret door. We cannot enter Erebor through the secret door. That is also a shame in my opinion. The dragon destroyed it, of course, but in between the death of Smaug and the events here on the books, there's almost 80 years. So more than enough time for the dwarves to repair the door. But maybe they didn't want to leave that door open because it's not so much of a secret anymore. I don't know, but I mean, I'm sure the LOTRO team have the reasons as to why we cannot enter the mountain through the secret door, but in my opinion, it is such a shame that we can't. I would have loved to do that and follow the same path that Bilbo did until he could at least get a good view of Smaug. But alas, that's not to be, at least not in game. So now we're gonna stop as far as we can go, which is the secret door. We can technically go into Erebor, but in order to enter Erebor we would need to take the main gate, and Bilbo never took the main gate until the battle was ended, that is. So yeah, I'm not gonna stop by the main gate. It was by the main gate when the entire debacle about the Arkenstone was known, where Thorin cast Bilbo out of the company. So technically there is a reason why we could still go to the main gate of Erebor, but in my opinion it's more fitting to end this journey at the secret door. So that's where we are headed next. We're almost there. We have also taken this path a couple times already during the Durin's Day celebrations, and I still have 1 year left to do to complete it all. So I will most likely also do that for the channel, but there is still a couple months before that comes to pass. So in the meantime, just gonna finish this celebration of Bilbo's birthday in here. We're almost there now to the secret door and the thrush. Although I think the thrush is not present unless it's Durin's Day. I don't remember that one, but we are gonna find out soon enough. Yeah, I missed it. Like usual, I tend to miss this kind of things. At least I think I did. The old side door, yeah. Okay, yeah, I see it now how I missed it. My butt. It's not this one? Where then? This one. Yeah. Thank you. Finally, at long last, the old side door. There is no thrush this time. There are no runes. There's no Durin's Day. But it is Bilbo's birthday. And we're gonna end our celebration, our commemoration of Bilbo's and Frodo's birthday at this spot. And the very last pouch of pipe we are gonna smoke is this one, Dragon's Breath. You can imagine what this one does, of course, but we are still gonna take a look and enjoy our time in here. Garalith is excited as well to take a look at this one. A dragon breathing fire, and that is of course for Smaug after Bilbo taunted him, and they were hiding behind this secret door. Smaug came looking for the dwarves and didn't find them, and then he perched himself on the peak of the mountain breathing fire and promising to attack Lake Town, as he was sure that's where Bilbo and the dwarves came from. And then that's when he was killed by Bard. We already saw that with the Vasil Pipeweed, and then the battle, everything else that we have already revisited. But here on the old side door comes the end of the celebration of the commemoration of Bilbo's and Frodo's birthday. I hope you enjoyed this one. As I said before, I was very excited about doing this. I had been planning this for a long time, looking for the very different kinds of pipeweed that you can get in game. I wanted to do something special with a pipeweed because, well, it's not an item that we get to use a lot nowadays. It's just now for role-playing and cosmetic purposes, but I still wanted to do something with the pipeweed, especially in relation to Bilbo and the hobbits. So this was our celebration of Bilbo's and Frodo's birthday, and this is all for today's episode. So once again, thank you so much for watching today's episode of Tales of Middle-earth. Join me next time when we will explore many more locations and stories that are still left untold. But for the time being, this has been Beriathan of the Citadel Guard of Gondor, and I wish you a good one. Until then, my friends, stay safe, take care, good luck to you all, and I will see you later.